Hey guys, this is Kevin Smith Jr., your host for the Container Happy Hour. Grab a drink, join us every 2 weeks, and we'll talk containers and future of the market. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by my good friend, John O'Hara from Halliburton. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Cheers. Cheers, man. Thanks for setting it up.
Oh, thanks for letting us come over here.
Ooh, that's
This
good.
is a really special edition of the Container Happy Hour, episode 8. We're actually doing this in your private podcasting room.
My podcasting room.
This is amazing.
/ office.
Like, when I asked you to do this, I didn't expect to have this kind of setup.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, you want a podcast? You have to come over and
you have to go.
use the setup. Use the setup.
Let's do the full thing.
Yes.
So first, we'll appease all the drunkards on the listening and watching. We're doing a little Jefferson's Ocean. Have you had this?
I haven't until now.
2 minutes ago. So blend of straight bourbon whiskeys, very small batch. The novelty of it to me was that they actually slosh around on a boat on the ocean, and then you get a little note where your whiskey was.
Fingers crossed it was a container ship.
It had to be. That's
right.
a story we're going with, though, right?
Right.
So
yeah, it's good. It's really good, actually.
It is. It's going to make for a good day for us.
Yeah.
So let's dig in, man. You are, by title, the Global Business Development Manager of Advanced Completions for Halliburton. It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, and you would think it would be important. It's really not.
It sounds super important.
It is not that important.
Does it fit on your business card?
Barely.
Okay.
Do people still use business cards? You have to see people to use business cards, so it barely fits. Yeah, I'm in our completion tools business. I work for Halliburton, 20 years now, I guess. So I'm in the completions side of the business in a global business development role. So I travel. In normal times, I travel a lot.
For the amateur oil and gas person out there, explain completions.
So yeah, we'll give you the 10,000 foot completions for dummies. So you'll drill a well and case a well and kind of case and cement it. So you're kind of prepping at that point. And then we would run completion equipment in the well. So you would run kind of more pipe in the ground with some isolation and different things that you end up producing through. So it's the final phase. It's literally completing the well, right? That's why they hear sorry about that.
That's okay.
So it's when we complete the well. Like it's the final thing you do before you bring it on to production.
And I think where that gets kind of confusing to people that aren't in that sector, though, is that they think drilling is where you get oil.
Yep.
Drilling's before you.
Yes.
And they also think completion is we're done with this when we're walking away.
Yes.
But really that means we're done in a sense that we're ready to start producing
Correct.
Product.
Yeah,
right?
and completions can be, so I'm in what we call completion tools and advanced completion, so it's more high-end technology, I would say. So downhole sensors and then valves that you can actuate from surface remotely, right? So it can apply pressure and open and close valves, 10,000 feet down or whatnot. So that's completion tools. You'll hear people say completions oftentimes when they're talking like frack.
Yeah.
In North America, kind of the land area. That's also considered completions because they're also completing the well there, where I'm more of a completion tool. So I'm a hardware guy.
Okay.
Kind of a dumb plumber too, because a lot of what we do is hydraulically driven. So we use pressure to open and close things. And
how many people are on your team?
So I've got 6 in my group in all global business development. So I work for our global product lines. So I work on, are we developing the right things? So I spend a lot of time in, Saudi Aramco's office and ExxonMobil's office and Petrobras and all these places and, kind of listening to them and are we doing the right things? Are we building the right things? Do we need to develop new things? Are we kind of listening and responding to their needs?
Right.
And then I work with our product development folks and technology folks to make sure that we're delivering in the product.
And how much of that traveling and face-to-face are you doing this year?
Almost none. The most devastating part is, I grind my way to United 1K, which is pretty key to get upgraded and all those things. And I'm not the only one, but I'm basically losing everything this year. So I'm going to be I won't be as snooty, I won't look down on the cattle class flyers, right? Because I'm going to be in the same boat.
maybe someone at United happens to watch this and they just honor your
Yes.
status moving forward.
They did. I think United. They did extend it 6 months, so I'm 1K at least until the middle of next year.
They're going to need to keep pushing that.
Yes,
Because there's no way we're going to retain status.
No, I mean, there's no one traveling internationally. Period. Right. So
this is a random tangent, but we're on a happy hour, so
Yeah.
it happens. I just read a thing last night that United put out 99.7% surety on those new HEPA filters they're using on the planes.
really,
They're actually saying the plane is cleaner air than your house or an operating room. That's their sales pitch to get you back on the plane.
sounds reasonable, I guess.
But
I have flown. I went to New Mexico. I've flown twice, in fact, to Santa Fe and back. If you call that, not big haul trips or
Right.
anything.
that works.
But I have flown. I like to think I'm young enough that COVID won't kill me if I get it. I don't want it.
No. But the stats prove we're probably going to make it through.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So
Knock on wood.
knock on wood. Of course, that means I'll be the one that dies from it, right?
This
Is that way it works? It's like, I'm not going to die from it. Then you're going to be like, I told you so.
Just for the record, if something happens to either one of us, should we still release this episode?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
We're like art. It's like art at that point. It probably becomes, it probably you get
It's
10,000 more
about you.
views. You're going to be like, hey, John, do you mind dying on me for this? Because I feel like I would shoot through the roof on the podcast.
Episode 8 was our moats washed. Really took us to the big time.
So,
That's awesome. So talk to me about, we've obviously the travel is down.
Yeah,
and,
big time down.
all that kind of stuff. Do a general view of, maybe rig count, barrel pricing, how some of that stuff is different this year as opposed to last year.
Yeah, I would say so. It's 20. This is kind of my third downturn, I guess. 2015, 2016 is when we kind of had the big dip. We reduced headcount pretty significantly, 40% or something like that, probably. As a company, things had kind of taken a pretty big hit, and had climbed back to hovering around $57, $58 a barrel, right? WTI.
And WTI is the indicator for crude
For West Texas
West
Intermediate.
Texas.
Yeah. And then you'll hear the two kind of big are that and Brent, Brent crude, which is North Sea.
And
Brent,
today that number is about $40. Is that
yeah,
right?
it dipped today. So
Did
yeah, got hit pretty hard. Schlumberger released earnings today and they were down almost 9%.
So we're filming this, just for the record, we're filming this entering the third week of October.
Yep.
And so that's where we're indicating those numbers.
Yeah, our earnings are Monday. And Schlumberger's weren't good today, so usually you can kind of read the tea leaves.
So we're gonna have an earnings and your death from COVID.
Yes.
And we post all of it at once. This is gonna be a legendary episode.
Could hit like
I'm really
5,000.
sorry about this, brother.
No worries. Hey, I do what I can. So rig count, I guess, to go into that. When this started, rig count, I think the high water mark was maybe 1,500 north. And when people say rig count, they're generally speaking to North America land,
Right?
Because those are the ones that tend to fluctuate. It's easy to lay one down or pick one up. So high water market was probably 1,400 or 1,500. Then it was kind of back up to about 750 or 800 pre-COVID.
Okay.
And then the Saudi, the Saudi fired the first bullet. They've been trying to kill shale for a while because they think it's uneconomic. It's pretty hard to argue with them. They do know the business. So oil went from $60 basically early in the year to obviously went negative, and there's not quite as straightforward as it just went negative, but we basically went to almost nothing. Hovered around 20, bounced back to 40. It's probably 38 today, just under 39. Rig count, in fact, we just had the discussion. You kind of look at two ways. You have a rig count, which is the drilling side, right? So how many rigs are drilling? There's probably 260, 270 today. I haven't seen the Baker Hughes numbers this week, but it's about there. And usually you have about half that in frac crews. Okay. So frac crews today is about 120. 125, and it's fluctuating week to week. Is kind of where that number is, and so it's the lowest it's ever been since frac really started in earnest. It's ticked up some, and I think the outlook for next year is ticking up a little bit more, 20%, maybe 25%, but you'll never see, and this is my opinion, but I think it's pretty widely held, is we've passed the peak in production from the U.S. So we won't see. We hit just over 13 million barrels a day last year, and I think we're about just over 10 right now. So that breakdown, just to give, we're kind of getting a deep dive into it, I guess. About 7 million of that is conventional production. About 3.5 is now unconventional, or kind of that shale frack.
Right.
Of that breakdown, about 2.8 million of that a day is Gulf of Mexico, and the rest is kind of North America land conventional production.
Okay.
So that's kind of the back of napkin numbers.
Yeah, no, that's good.
We were at about 100 million, just under 100 million barrels a day globally, demand and production. That actually, I think demand dropped to like 75 million barrels a day when COVID first locked everything down. Mm-hmm. So you end up with this massive glut, right, mm-hmm. of oil, because you can't just turn off you can't just stop it, right? And then when things went negative, it's because everything was full storage-wise, kind of in effect, right? So people said, no, we don't want to take it right now.
Right. And that's what I wanted to jump in on that point, because I think when things went negative, there was a lot of misunderstanding in the general market about what that meant. And
those are almost
the world
futures.
Isn't coming to an end.
No, those are really futures contracts. Yeah, those are really futures contracts. What it bounced back to is kind of the real number, right? That was an end of the month. That was for like the end of the month. That day was for a futures contract. So that was basically everybody saying, no, I'm not taking anything else today.
And isn't that as simple as saying, A, we don't have room for that, and B, there's no consumption to justify it, and those two things meet, and oh shit.
Yep. And it happens, right?
Okay. But it's a fleeting moment, right?
Yes. It was one day. And then it really was about $20, but $20 is pretty devastating. I mean, there is not economic production globally at $20.
Right.
Period, right? There's no one making money. Hence, you've seen, what's the number I saw? There was about $3 billion have gone through bankruptcy court in the U.S. for U.S. operators and service companies in the last 5 months.
Wow.
So it's pretty. It's a bloodbath, blood in the streets, man.
It's been a difficult year for a lot of people.
Yep, yeah, for sure.
So there's a podcast that you actually turned me on to a while ago, and full disclosure, we're friends outside of doing an occasional podcast together. So, but I saved asking you about this until we were on the episode. So the Drill Down.
Oh yeah.
The brothers.
Yep. The Spears brothers. Shout out, great guys, good podcast.
Really good podcast. It's really informative, and for someone like me that's not in the sector, it's understandable.
Yes.
But there were two things in there that stuck out to me the past few weeks, and I meant to ask you about them. One, they said the Saudi forecast for the next 3 years is like mid-50s.
Yeah.
For barrel pricing, right?
I think a lot of people would say, yeah, that's okay. We'll take it.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing to me, though, because historically you always heard and correct me where I go off track here.
Yep.
You heard 70 to 80 was kind of that number where other alternative sources started to become viable.
Yep.
And then 100 was always the target of hell yeah, we're rolling.
Yes.
Are those fair numbers just for
Yeah, but I don't I think
that's changed. That mindset has changed.
Yes, for sure, right.
Okay.
I have friends that are in the kind of that North America space. $50. There's people in with the right, I would say the right asset, the right producing area. Some of their G&A, some of their overhead, what they paid for leases and whatnot, are dialed in enough where they're making money at $50. They're not getting rich, but they're making money. I would say that's the case too for Deepwater Gulf of Mexico, for example. At $50, they're making money. The issue there is it's a huge capital outlay that you don't get returned for a long time, right? Sure. And I would say that's a good number. I think the number we need to be at today it needs to be over 50, and I think in 50s, 40 is definitely one where you start seeing rigs get laid down again.
Okay.
But then there's things like you need to keep your lease, so you have to drill. Now, landowners are generally saying today is, hey, it doesn't make sense for me to give up a finite resource, so we're going to tell you don't have to drill right now, right? We're okay with pausing everything. So that's generally what operators are doing now, going to the landowner, and saying, hey, man, I know I'm committed to drilling these wells and whatnot. I can do it, but none of us are going to make money. So can we get some relief from that? And that's usually what happens. Long-winded answer for, I would say 70 is blowing and going. You hit 70, there's you'll see a lot of rigs picked up in North America.
So that relative viewpoint has changed.
Yes.
And maybe not necessarily all from COVID, but just the reality of, production, consumption, everything.
Yeah, and just fundamentally change. I mean, COVID's going to change habits, right? I mean, habits are changing, travel habits. There's a pretty common held thing that you won't see demand ever what it was, right? You're not going to hit that 100 million barrel a day demand. Right. It's just not there, right? But 92 million, 93, yes, but not 100.
So that falls right into, thank you for making my segue, because that falls right into the second thing I wanted to ask about the drill down, right?
Yep.
So last week they mentioned there's basically a federal projection on consumption. And I'm paraphrasing here, but maybe the projection from the government was 18 million for a quarter or for a month or whatever it was. And it came in, the hard data came in at 19.1.
Yep.
Right? So what they were basically saying is America's a little more active than maybe the perception is.
Yes. Yeah,
people are kind of starting getting back out there and doing more things in that space.
Yes.
Right?
The consumption is definitely up.
Okay.
I would say, the issue is, I think if you look at the global number, I think it's about a billion barrels of oil in storage. So in just rough numbers to give you an idea, right? And demand is 90 million a day or whatever that, it's ish, give or take. In production, if you start doing the numbers, it's going to take us like a year, probably a couple of years to get through the backlog of storage to get back down to historical storage numbers.
Okay.
So that's the scary thing, and that's why you see the projection. That's why you see
this is awesome. If you guys hear this, by the way, in the background, I don't know if this can show up in the mic.
Probably not. But
this is one of John's bulldog.
Yes,
is laying right behind me. It is spectacular. I mean, just snoring so hard.
Yes. You still don't even notice it anymore. But yeah, that's the scary number and that's why they'll tell you the projection is kind of $50 a barrel for the next 3 years because there's so much in storage.
Got you.
So the minute demand goes up, that's fine. We don't need more production. We still have it in storage, right? So it's burning through that backlog.
So when they're able to talk about those forecasts on pricing, they can feel really confident based on that backlog.
Yes, I mean,
and based on that storage.
There's almost no scenario that it goes to $75 in the next 2 years.
Okay.
It would now without war in the Middle East.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. I mean, there's more scenarios for it going to $20 than there is for it going to 70. I'll put it that way, right?
Yeah. No, that's good.
But
you're right. War changes everything.
100%. Like that's one thing that can derail. I mean, we've already had a record number of hurricanes have shut in the Gulf of Mexico. I think more than it's ever shut in this year, and it didn't make a dent in things. And normally that would really drive prices up. But again, there's just so much and demand so far down, right?
But that hurricane did change lumber.
It did.
Holy shit!
There's a hurricane and it's COVID, right?
The lumber pricing is unbelievable.
That's a leading indicator for the housing market, right? Yeah. Because most of the big housing manufacturers or big builders order ahead in volume, right? So that's definitely a leading indicator when you're looking at, when people want to move. So like housing sales are through the roof because it's people moving out of city centers and into more places that are probably more living friendly to your day-to-day living, right?
Right.
So a good thing to watch is, and if you don't want to invest in D.R. Horton, you want to invest in the lumber.
Oh, for
supplying
sure.
them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so, because you tend to see that first.
That's the play.
Yeah,
I mean, I think just a standard 2x4 is up several multipliers.
That's crazy
right now. And think about what we do when we're modifying these containers. Just that base cost behind the wall is up, 5-6x.
Yes,
that's ridiculous.
So I'll throw a segue for you. So and we haven't gotten there, but as you know, we have a project, a little construction project going on, a little side hustle I have. And a big part of it was going to be decking and all this stuff out of wood, and kind of started to look at pricing, and it was like, man, this is going to cost me a fortune.
All of a sudden, this is no good.
Right? So then it became, hey, man, can we use a container with the wall, and start to, so that's actually what led. And so it's interesting you brought up the lumber pricing, because that's a big part of why I started looking at the container construction piece.
So you're telling me literally being recorded right now, your first thought was not, let me work with my buddy. It was build it out of wood.
No, 100%. We were going to do a deck. We were going to do a deck. It's traditional, right? It's like, we're going to have a little deck, and we're going to put, of course, and my dad's was a metal building guy forever, so he wants to build it out of steel. We can do it out of steel because have you seen wood prices? And then it became, well, but then it's going to be permanent. And then I see a picture, and I was like, well, that would be really slick. And that's what quickly said. I was like, man, I need to text Kevin and say, hey, man, is this doable? Is this doable? Yeah. So yeah, now I'm full speed ahead with it.
So let's go ahead and take that segue, and we can come back to Halliburton, you know, in our own due time. But you are also the part of the ownership group for Fortress Beer Works, a local brewery.
Yep.
You know, we'll go ahead and add that website right here.
Yeah.
And awesome place. But that's what we're talking about basically, is the fact that to add on to create some additional distanced space for guests, right?
Yep.
That we're going to cut open some containers and create these, like, you know, out of the weather yet cool aesthetics.
Yeah.
Right?
And I love, so it's a food truck that we have that we're kind of trying to build in around a food truck. So, you know, one of the challenges is a food truck, you have to be able to take it out and get it inspected, and it's not supposed to be a permanent structure. So you have the challenge of how do we build in around it and then be able to still remove it, right? Take it in and out.
Containers.
So what we can do is, man, I can come in now with a fork, you know, we don't have a forklift that'll work outside, but we're right next to a equipment rental place that I just grab it whenever I need it. I can come over in one lift, move it, and then come back, right? So, it's a game changer is probably a bad, you know, maybe too much of a.
Hey, we can be pumped about it.
It's very cool, right? And I think I'm super excited about it. Believe it or not, I mean, to tell you how old I'm getting, right? I'm getting excited about like modular to be able to move some of my building project at the brewery, right? But yeah, it's a good solution for us. You know, we have the challenges of limited occupancy because of the COVID restrictions. So this gives us basically an outdoor space that we can open air. People, you know, in addition to occupancy challenges, a lot of people just aren't comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. So that open air container, if you will, that gives us the roof, the weather containment, or protection from weather, but we can also, you know, move it. We can
do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you guys do a lot of cool shit over there where you have outdoor drive-in concerts and drive-in movies and all kinds of things that are, you know, safe and distanced and COVID related. So these containers can have multiple applications out there, and that's the cool thing.
We can add to. You know, we were talking too. It's like, man, okay, we want it to get bigger, and we just put another one right next to it. We've now, you know, doubled the size, and it's just it makes a lot of sense for us.
Yeah, it's scalable, it's modular, it's everything.
Yep,
it's all the buzzwords.
All the buzzwords.
EMS is obviously going to be involved with that with you.
Yep.
So why don't we do a follow up?
Yeah.
After they're out there, and we'll do the episode at Fortress.
I love it. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, for sure. That would be great.
Yeah. So you know, I don't know when that'll end up in the season. Like, you know, episode 15.
Right.
We'll end up doing this at Fortress.
It won't take long because the style of construction, it happens fast.
Well, that's true.
It's a free plug, by the way. There's no charge for that plug.
Thank you. But I need you to clarify for people that what they see on Pinterest about like a house for $2,000 is not true.
No. And it's funny, and I know I text you, and you probably have seen that I'm getting in these like deep dive. I look up and I've spent an hour looking at container homes and all these things, right? So it's some of it's crazy, right? Like some of it's is way above what I guess what I want to do. But I'm so, you know, kind of enthralled with it now. And as you probably know, my family has a ranch just west of Houston, or northwest of Houston, between Belleville and Hempstead. And we're on the Brazos River, and it's got this kind of property kind of goes down or goes up depending on which direction you're going towards the river. And I sent that picture of the brown container home, and now I've got this big plan. I want to put one down there and make it almost a cabin, right?
Right.
And it just fits because it's like perfect for where I want to put it. It's not got close electricity and all these other things, and it's relatively remote on the property. And so construction's not easy to get to, so it makes a lot of sense for the container thing, right? So
Of course.
I'm trying to put containers everywhere.
No, I know
My
you
wife
are.
is like, "What is going on?"
And I'll tell you though, you're getting pretty good at the guesses.
Yes.
Because for obviously people that don't see our text threads, which is probably good.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
Keeps us out of trouble.
John will just screenshot like something cool he sees, and it could be in Norway for all he cares. But he's like, "Hey, brother, can you make this?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, we can make that." And he's like, "What's that worth?" And he'll guess. And if you really scrolled back, like over the past month, the guesses are getting better and better.
You're getting more dialed in now on it, right?
Like you're probably within a couple thousand now.
Mm-hmm.
And so now at this point, when you guess it, I'm spending less time on my side of the
Yes.
estimate because I'm just like,
Yeah,
he's pretty good.
Close
He's
enough.
pretty
Close enough. I just think it's interesting too, right? I think that now I'm very fascinated. I grew up around a general contractor dad, right? So I grew up around every kind of material and construction, and the shift to barn dominiums, and he was like an early barn dominium guy, right?
Right.
And then really early barn dominium guy, probably when people wasn't called that. It was living quarters in a barn, right?
Right.
And so he became a big proponent of metal building, right? And using steel structure and those things, right? And now I'm going to try and get him on this container thing, right? And so yeah, I'm excited about all the projects that are going, right?
We have a lot of stuff going, man. We have a lot of fun stuff, but it is really cool. And the cool thing is, we could talk to your dad about this, and I think he would get his head around it and go, okay, that makes sense. Because at EMS, we've done some really large scale projects that were commercial buildings.
Yep.
And the containers ended up being the structural components.
Yep.
And some of them are over 400 units to create a building.
That's crazy.
Right? And all the time people come in and they talk about it and they're like, why? How do you justify this? Why did the capital company think this was a good idea?
Yeah.
And we just had a guy in this week, right? And we're doing one of these, and he's walking through the shop and he's like, okay, I see what you're doing, and you're building these, and you're doing 10 of them at a time, and you're doing 400, and then you're going to deliver them. I said, yeah, you do realize like the ownership group is preparing their site and getting their permitting simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like, think what that does to your timelines.
Yeah, that's right. It's huge.
So the minute that they have slab and permit and all those kind of things, we're sitting there waiting with containers that are ready
with
to
Legos.
place. Yeah, exactly.
You're ready with Legos.
Big kid Legos, man. And we're ready to place them and go.
Yeah.
So I don't know on project by project what that reduces, but it's unbelievable the potential cost savings.
Yeah, I don't know, in the oil and gas space, validity for anything you work on is done by what we call like a paper or a white paper, right? Mm-hmm. It's all these, and then you got a new technology and you go to pitch it to fill in the blank. Anybody, Chevron, Exxon, Shell, they say, well, what papers? Do you have anything you can send me on this? Because that's validation, right? So it'd be interesting. It's like somebody needs to write a white paper of like, here's, and I'm sure it's out there probably, right? But like kind of do a white paper, say, all right, here's really the benefit, once you start doing this and start to get a good understanding of where the value lies in that, right?
So that's something else that just came out of today. So I'll just do that this weekend.
Yeah.
I'll just whip out a white paper.
Yeah. Just say,
there's
hey, look,
nothing to it, right?
We did the math. That's it.
We did the math. This is verified by John and Kevin.
Yeah, there goes GC is going to be like, what? Who's this? So, it's my neighbor.
Yeah.
It's my neighbor.
His dad was a GC, so I'm pretty sure it's accurate.
Yeah, that's maybe behind sleeping at a Holiday Inn or whatever last night or something, somewhere in between there, right? It's it's like when Validity is like, oh.
And when did you guys do this? Well, we had a bunch of whiskey, and he was about to die from COVID,
yes.
So we did it that night.
And it was on a podcast. We needed to get it done.
We did it that night. We tightened it up. This is good.
Yeah. So,
do you want me to put you on the white paper? I might as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, right? So you always want to be credited, right? Whenever you do these white papers, everybody's like, "Oh, look, I co-authored."
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to put it on LinkedIn, man. So if you'll let me co-author, I can put it on LinkedIn.
But let's circle back to how impressive your title is.
Yes.
That's why I need you on my white paper.
Yeah, I know, right?
Can you believe it's like, yeah, whatever. You're fine.
Yeah.
Wait, you have somebody that is actually a global business development manager of advanced completions at Halliburton?
It's like, man, I don't know what that is.
That's
right. Might as well say doctor.
Give it to him. Give it to him.
Might as well say doctor. Oh, I look over. So Kevin, have you had that little spot on your arm looked at? What are you? Oh, you work in oil and gas. Yeah, but it's okay. I got this, man.
I got this.
Yeah, we write white papers on everything, right?
I know a guy.
I know a guy.
So speaking of Halliburton, though, and we're jumping back into that world.
Yeah.
And we can spend more time on Fortress if you want to. Cause
No, it's good.
That is spectacular.
I like talking. To tell you, man, I've got this growing passion for containers. Believe it or not, right?
No, we have to,
yes.
right? Believe me, I have sensed it, and it's
Yes.
why we're doing this.
Yes.
But Halliburton directly. I mean, where was your exposure to containers before me? Like,
Yeah, I mean, obviously you get the storage, right? That one's, and you see them everywhere. They're on rigs. They're everywhere,
right?
For moving cargo and storage. I would say one of the big applications that we have, and I can tell you a bunch of them we have on in all our facilities, are around pressure test, high pressure testing, and they become a very good, easily adaptable containment system for pressure testing, right? So you kind of beef up the inside, got good doors, go in, put in a completion tool of some type, right? Mm-hmm. Put some end caps on it so it can contain pressure. And we're doing, high volume, high pressure. So I don't know if you know much about pressure, right? But if I took this pin, right, and this pin was hollow and it had 10,000 pounds or 10,000 PSI inside of it, it's not very dangerous, right? If you got a leak or you dropped it or whatever, and it would kind of just go, and it would kind of leak off, right? But if you took 10,000 pounds and you put it, I don't know, in something the size of a basketball, it's pretty dangerous, right? Because then it's a volume thing, right? So when we do pressure testing, as you start to get in larger volumes in casing or in tubing pipe, it becomes pretty dangerous, right?
Right.
So we'll use these containers, and they're a good modular way to beef them up and use them for containment vessels for if something bad happens. So you see a ton of that. And I'm going to throw one more question at you.
Okay.
As in, I've been doing deep dive research.
Yeah, I'm a little scared, though.
So how many used boxes versus new boxes are used in construction now?
That's a very good question.
Because obviously that's a thing. We're now, probably at one point it was all boxes were for shipping. Now people are like, no, I want a new box because I'm about to do some of the bougie building you see on Instagram for hashtag, container homes.
Right. Okay. Longer answer than you wanted, but we're on a podcast, so there's no timeline, right?
Correct. It's like a Joe Rogan podcast. We'll be here for 4 hours.
That's the other thing we need to do. We might as well just do this
shit long form.
Do a long form. Yeah. Here. Shout out to Rogan, man.
Yeah.
Those are brutal to get through, but I love it every time.
Every time.
Okay. So let's break this into a couple different answers. Used, I've seen a big percentage when we're using them as a building component. So I referenced earlier a project where we're doing these buildings and it's 400 plus units and all that. That project doesn't financially make sense unless it's used boxes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
New, if it's a single build, it's a home, it's an office, it's something that's a showpiece, there's no doubt, you're going to steer people towards a new one.
Yep.
Because if you're spending $20,000 on the build, the extra $1,000 on the asset to start, no brainer.
Yeah, that's right.
But where your question really hit me between the eyes and makes this a difficult answer. Containers have lived in this gray area where permitting people didn't know what to do with them.
Yep.
Contractors didn't know what to do with them.
I'm just, by the way, interrupt real quickly. I'm just assuming you don't have to permit it when it comes to the ranch. Anyway, go ahead.
If I have to permit it at your ranch,
no,
we're both screwed.
Yeah, I'm just assuming that there's no permitting involved.
No. But don't put that on record.
That's exactly. Anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
Don't even say what county that
No,
did.
I won't. Chambers County.
Yeah.
Wherever.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, way over there. So what we're seeing though is containers have kind of made themselves known.
Yeah.
Right. And they've become more aware in permitting offices and all these kind of things. So the idea of I'm just going to build this and put it over there, those days don't happen anymore.
No, that's right. We to use that example, right? In Halliburton, we had a really good second quarter, cash flow wise. Because we leaned out. We went, man, do we need this? Do we need this? Do we need this? All these things happen, and you have just capital discipline, right? You start to go, do I really need to spend that? Do I need to do this? You know.
Is Stevie on the camera? I hope the camera gets
No, I don't think
Stevie.
she is. So, no, she's too short. But yeah, so I agree, man. Like the brewery is a good example too. I mean, we're still relative, kind of a startup, so I pay a lot of attention to those details anyway. But trust me, man, I'm digging into numbers and like, hey, do we need this? Do we need that? Can we get it cheaper, right? When you're making money and whatever, do I need to look at another insurance provider?
Right.
You know, you start to be more disciplined when things are tight, right?
And I think this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Because and maybe Fortress is the easy example, right?
Yep.
I need cups for the bar, and
Yes.
I'm going to serve people when they're out there, and they cost.
So we were getting cups.
What is a plastic cup?
So we were
cost that
getting
you serve
cups.
a beer?
So we were getting cups that have this little Texas star thing on the side, right?
I've drank a few of them.
You know what I'm talking about. So those cups are $50 for 500, so like 10 cents. We went in, and this is a second set of eyes. We have a new taproom manager who went to Restaurant Depot to pick up, cups, and he's like, and I guess they have new ones there that don't have the star, and they're $30 for 500. So it was like, hey man, I hope you're okay. He's like, do we need the star? And I was like, no, we don't, because last month we spent like $600 on cups. So man, we saved like $250 overnight.
Can see like how many beers you just pumped out last month.
Yeah, probably.
Just for the
You
record.
get back in, right? Yeah, I'm sure a lot of waste in there too, right? But again, it was one of those you probably don't pay attention to till you look and you're like, all right, do we really need this? And we shave 40% off cups.
How great is that though? But that's one item.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys are doing that on everything.
Trying to.
And then multiply that across how many different vendors does a Halliburton have?
Yeah.
And as they're trying to do that. So
and
that's the positive. I guess I'm trying to turn this into a positive.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think if you come out of this and you survive, I think you're a better business for it. Believe it or not. I think if there was a lot of, and I would use restaurants as an example, right? There's a lot of restaurants that were probably just kind of teetering along. And then COVID was the one that said, all right, it's over, right? So, and I think the big restaurant companies have done that, right? So you look in town, they closed like 6 restaurants. Well, they're kind of low performers. They need to probably be weeded out anyway. So I think it does, these times tend to lean things out, right? And I think it as we hopefully come out of this in 2021, for heaven's sake, you'll start to see businesses really thrive because they've gotten lean and really strengthened through all of this, right? So I for sure think Halliburton, without going into a deep dive around fossil fuels in the future, we're going to need them for quite a few years ahead. Halliburton is definitely a different company now, right? Because we have to be.
Ago.
Yeah, because we have to be.
Yeah.
I would argue though it's probably going to be a bit more laser focused and disciplined company than it was before.
Yeah.
And I think
That's
Fortress.
not a bad thing.
No, I think it's a good thing. I think Fortress is in the same boat, right? So I think it's going to be a more disciplined, and focusing on things like what can I do that's less capital and produces more cash flow, right? So it's like, man, it fundamentally changes your business model to say, hey, can I do this differently? And not have the capital burden, but still produce cash flow, which is generally the intent of a business, or it should be, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a long way. I've had good weeks. The last few weeks have been good, minus the stock market today and oil and gas. The last few weeks have been good on the oil and gas front and the brewery front, because I think there's a lot of positives in the pipeline, right? And there's green shoots, if I want to start buzzwords, right? But there's green I want to avoid. I'm cautiously optimistic.
That's good. I am too. The one that you sent me actually this morning, the most recent version.
Yeah.
The first thought I had on the 20 was like, we go double decker.
Yeah.
And that's the viewing station. That's like the VIP
Yes.
for the concerts.
With a circle staircase.
Oh, circle staircase. Yeah, that'll be easy. I love that you throw easy shit at me.
Just cut a circle. We can buy those. I find those cheap.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Right,
And then the VIP
right.
viewing. So I love modularity. I liked being able to build and do things in phases and move it, and
So were you a Lego kid?
I was.
Yeah. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
Probably.
It's pretty true.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the project, and then maybe next year I kick off my container home on the ranch project, and
Are we doing that in 21?
I think so.
After the meteor?
Oh, it's probably going to be during, because I'm going to
you got to get away.
as things come unwound.
So you're letting
I'm going
it
to
hit our neighborhood.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully while we're not home.
Yeah. Screw. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Yeah.
You're not here.
I'll give
The
you a heads up.
neighborhood
I'll give you a heads up.
So you have the intel.
Yeah, that's whatever happens on November 3rd. We got a place to go if the wheels come off the wagon, as they say, right? Get the house out there. I can grow food.
Live off the land.
Live off the land.
That's the word.
Right, we could do it.
And we know where there's a brewery.
All the beer we can stomach.
It's so good.
Glad. Thanks for inviting me, man. It was good.
Dude, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for having it. Thank you for
Yeah.
hosting it.
Yeah. Selfishly, it was a short commute.
Well, it worked for both of us.
Short commute. I'm super pumped about whatever the episode is that we get to do it on location.
That's going to be really cool.
And we'll do live out in the EMS container project at the brewery.
It's going to be awesome. So big thanks to EMS, John O'Hara, Fortress Beer Works, Halliburton.
Big Red.
Stevie sleeping on the floor.
Stevie sleeping on the floor. Yeah.
And thank you guys for watching. It's awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, man.